And we're going to be talking today about what's new with Microsoft Copilot. So it's important to note that AI models are changing very rapidly, and Copilot is no exception. It's advancing seemingly by the day here. So the focus of today's presentation, we're going to be discussing what's new, what new changes. This is not really a show and tell about Copilot or Copilot training. Although don't despair if that's what you're looking for. We do offer that. We do Copilot training and consulting as well to help businesses accomplish their goals. But if you're here today, hopefully you already have Copilot. If not, what are you waiting for? There's a lot of benefits to be had with Copilot, a lot of efficiencies that can be gained. I know I use it every day, and once you start using it, you just use it more and more here. I'm a firm believer that businesses that embrace artificial intelligence are going to outperform those businesses that don't. So you don't want to be left behind there. I just read a study this week. A company called Roost says that 97% of businesses plan to automate more in the coming year. So hopefully we're all in that 97% and not in that 3% that's not thinking about automation. Okay. A little bit about Colden Company before we get going too far here for the folks that are not current Colden Company customers. We're a managed services provider, been in business about 23 years. We have 3 different office locations, and we're not just any managed services provider. We're an award-winning managed services provider. So toot our own horn really quickly here. There's an independent organization that evaluates IT companies around the globe. They look at service offerings, tool sets that you're using, business practices, etc. And we're multiple time winners of that MSP award here. But we're also cybersecurity experts, and that's really important when we get talking about artificial intelligence, is you have to couple the gains you get with artificial intelligence with a good security posture. And there's countless stories on the internet about businesses that kind of go gung-ho down the AI path without properly securing things first. So it's one of the reasons we like Microsoft Copilot, and we'll talk more about this later on in the presentation, but it respects the security infrastructure that you already have in place, where a lot of the other tools do not. All right, so here's what we're going to cover today. We're going to be looking at some of the new AI models that you can choose from that are part of Copilot. Going to be looking at some nice improvements in Excel. I'm excited about one in particular. Also some pretty nice improvements in PowerPoint. And then the ability now to call Office apps from inside of Copilot Chat. So you don't have to switch over to Excel or Word or Outlook. You can actually reference those applications from Copilot Chat without having to switch. So all from that single pane of glass here. But number 5 is really the big addition. So we've been waiting for Copilot Cowork to come out, pretty excited about that. The way to kind of think about that is Cowork is really agentic AI as opposed to generative. Generative AI is where you ask a question, it generates a response. Agentic AI is where it can take autonomous action and be good at task completion. And that's really a big step forward here. So we're going to spend some time on Cowork, but also important to note that although Cowork is part of Copilot, that you have to pay for it separately. So you have to have a billing subscription in order to use it. It's not covered as part of the standard Copilot license. So bullet point number 6 here, cost controls and spending policies are really important, and we'll go over that and explain why that's so important. Okay. First advancement here is there are new AI models to choose from. So from the GPT class, 5.5 and 5.6 are now available. Claude Sonnet is now available. You may not even realize it because Copilot is choosing the LLM or large language model for you behind the scenes. But it's important to note that you do have the ability to swap that out. If you're asking it something and not getting an answer that you like, maybe try one of the other models. That's one of the beauties of Copilot is you can pick between different LLMs to get maybe slightly different results depending on your preference and your question. That will also come into play when we get talking about Microsoft Copilot Cowork, where the models cost different amounts. So knowing which of the models are lower cost models for routine work and picking the right model to fit the task become more important because it's not all inclusive in that subscription that you're already paying for. Now, a couple other things here. Claude has some more advanced models like Fable and Mythos. Fable is available in Cowork. If you follow the news at all, you probably saw news about some of Anthropic's more advanced models kind of going rogue recently. So let that be your warning. Be careful which models you're choosing, but Fable is available in Cowork now. Another really important point here is that Microsoft is building their own large language model. It's called Cowork 1.0, and it's going to be due out probably in Q4 of this year. And I find that really, really interesting, considering that Microsoft has invested over $13 billion in OpenAI, which are the makers of the GPT models. Seems a little bit odd that they're going and creating their own, right? Why did they invest all that money if they're going to go make their own anyway? I have my opinions and thoughts on that I will keep to myself for right now. But to me, it's really fascinating. Okay, so we've mentioned you can choose the different models. How do you do that? So on this slide, we're showing you a screenshot of where you would go. So here I've got Copilot chat up on the screen. And where I'm pointing out here where it says auto, by default, Copilot is going to decide which engine to give you. If you want to specifically select the one that you want, for example, maybe I'm a Claude proponent and I want to use Sonnet, you can go down there and choose it and it'll use that one for you. Again, that's one of the beauties of Copilot is the ability to switch between these different ones and try different things. Okay, next advancement here has been some pretty major improvements in the Excel personal assistant. It's gotten a lot better about formula creation. And just a point here, if you're struggling with formulas or struggling with Copilot in general and you're using Excel, one tip I would give you is try Excel on the web. So for me, I had much better luck asking Copilot to do things when I was working in Excel on the web, basically log into office.com, choose Excel on your apps. Things worked there that didn't work in the desktop version. So if you're struggling with that, try Excel on the web. I think you're going to have a much better experience. But bullet point number 2 is the real improvement here that I want to focus on is the Power BI integration. You now have the ability to create dashboards from inside of Excel. And this is great. Prior to this, if you wanted dashboards, you either had to manually create them yourself or use a tool like Power BI. Give you an example. Here at Colden Company, I have an Excel sheet where I'm tracking, we call it new logo sales, outside sales. I told Copilot, hey, Copilot, create me a dashboard with 2026 data and use appropriate sales metrics. That's all I told it. And within 2 to 3 minutes, I had a beautiful dashboard that looks very similar to the one that's on your screen here with graphs and charts and pie charts that would update dynamically as I changed the data. Really nice addition to Excel is to be able to create those dashboards. Okay, there's also been some nice improvements in PowerPoint. The formatting consistency has been greatly improved. So just full disclosure here, this PowerPoint that you're looking at today was created with Copilot. And the way I did it is I created a bulleted list of things that I wanted to talk about, improvements, and just went into the personal assistant inside of PowerPoint and asked it to make me a PowerPoint. It does a really good job. It'll ask you some questions. What colors do you want it to be? How long do you want it to be? Those types of things. But for example, I wanted to add another slide, something I forgot. I just asked it, Copilot, please create me a slide in between 11 and 12. Here's what I want it to say. It matched the formatting perfectly, did it in a couple of seconds, did a really great job of making PowerPoint quick and easy. So it builds those decks a lot better from outlines. You can also edit images now directly inside of PowerPoint that you couldn't do before. So some nice improvements there. Okay. Next improvement is you can call Office applications from within Copilot Chat. And you do that by referencing the different products, at Word, at Excel, at Outlook as an example. So what I could do, I could be sitting in Copilot Chat, and instead of switching to Outlook, I could say, at Outlook, show me all the emails that I need to follow up on from today. And it'll go out and get you that information. Or show me all the emails from person XYZ that came in this month. Or maybe you just got back from vacation. Hey, prioritize my emails that I need to follow up on from last week while I was out. And as long as you put the at Outlook in front of that, it's going to go ahead and do that for you. Now, there's one very important caveat here, is you have to be in what's called work IQ mode in order for this to work. And what does that mean? So you're probably used to seeing the work web toggle in Copilot Chat. If you're toggled on the website, that's going to be scouring the internet for information. If you've toggled it over to work, it's going to be looking at your personal information, whether it's your SharePoint data that you have access to, OneDrive data, Teams, your Outlook information, what have you. They've replaced that with something called Work IQ, and I'll show that here on this next slide here. No longer says work and web, it says work IQ. So that you just click that, it will toggle it on or gray it out if it's in web mode. So you have to be in work IQ mode, otherwise it's going to say, I don't have access to that data. So bear in mind that caveat when you're trying to call Office apps from inside Copilot Chat. Okay. Next, we're going to get to the anticipated enhancement here, which is the addition of Copilot Cowork. So let's start at the basics. What is Cowork? It's an agent. So we talked about the difference between generative AI and agentic AI. Think of it as your own personal assistant. That's going to be good at completing tasks, not just answering questions, but actually doing work. Another important point here is that while it does do work for you, it gives you a chance to review first. So they call that human in the loop. So they still want us to approve things. So I'll give you an example. I could ask Cowork, hey, find a time when these 3 people in my organization are all available for a meeting. The meeting's about the budget. Make it an hour and create a meeting invite for us. It'll go out and do the work for you. And the way it'll work is it's going to come back and give you some options. Hey, here's 3 times when these 3 people and yourself are all available. It'll draft the meeting invite for you to review. You can change it if you want. And you go ahead and pick your time and send it. So it's doing that legwork for you. So it's completing a task. So this is really highly anticipated here. It rivals Claude Cowork, if you've heard of Claude Cowork. And what's really interesting here is that Copilot Cowork is actually using Claude Cowork's engines behind the scenes. It's farming out a lot of that work to Claude. So the question you might have is, well, why don't I just use Claude Cowork? And there's a reason for that. And the reason is because of the security infrastructure that Copilot and Microsoft have in place. So the difference here, Copilot natively has access to your data without having to put any holes or APIs or anything like that. Copilot is part of the Microsoft ecosystem, and it will respect the security infrastructure that's already in place. If you don't have access to the HR folder, as an example, Copilot's going to respect that and not let you peer in there and see anything that's in there. If you're using a third-party tool, like Claude as an example, you have to upload your files for Claude to be able to work on them, right? And there you're pulling your files out of your maintained secured infrastructure and putting them into something else. Now you can set up APIs where Claude can see into your tenant, but essentially what you're doing is creating a security hole. Right now, if your Claude account gets compromised, they're going to have access to all of your Microsoft data as well. If you're using Copilot Cowork, none of that needs to happen. It's already secured the way you want it, and you're not opening up any additional holes. The other beauty is if you're using third-party tools, you have to continually upload the latest files for it to work on it. With Copilot, it's going to see data dynamically because it's already part of your 365 infrastructure. So some really nice benefits to using Copilot Cowork. Okay, so how do you use it? It's a toggle. So here I show a screenshot where you can choose chat versus Cowork. Very important point here is Cowork is not going to be available to you if you don't have a billing plan set up. So it's utility-based billing or token-based billing. Much like your water bill or your electric bill, the more water you use, the higher your water bill. The more electricity you use, the higher your electricity bill. The more tasks you give Cowork, the higher your bill is going to be. So it's based off of usage, and they track that through what are called tokens. So in a nutshell, a token costs a penny right now. With Copilot or Copilot Agent as an example, if you ask it a question, that's going to use a token or a penny. If it responds, that's going to be another penny or another token. But when you're doing tasks, those things can add up. So Microsoft gives you some guidelines. If it's a simple task, it may use 5 to 7 tokens. If it's more complicated, it might use 15 to 20. Here's what we've found in using Cowork thus far. We're using more tokens than Microsoft is predicting. So that's a really important point here. You not only want to have a billing plan set up before you use Cowork, you want to have cost controls in place first. You don't want people going crazy using this and racking up big bills. And I'll tell you a story about that in a minute here. But once you've got that set up, we've got the billing plan set up, Cowork will be available. You can see in the bottom of my slide here, things like organize my inbox or arrange my week, prepare for a meeting. In my next slide, I clicked on this show more button here. And this is some examples of things that it has suggested for me. This was maybe 10% of the suggestions that it had for me. There's a lot of possibilities. So, what can Cowork do for you? Depends on what you need it to do. So I'm going to give you some examples, starting with some very simple ones, and then lead up to a more complicated one. At Colden Company, we're a cybersecurity organization. We have to be up to date on what's going on. I used to wake up in the morning and doom scroll through my feed and look for the latest cybersecurity news. Well, now I have Copilot doing that for me. And what I've done is created a repetitive task. So at the beginning of every week, we want to know about the latest threats. We want to know about any compliance changes or breaches that are noteworthy. So Copilot is going out and creating that for us and sending it via email to my team here. So this is just a kind of a screenshot of that email where it's done all this for us and compiled it. We also need to stay current with AI. So in a similar manner, we're taking all the latest Copilot news and advancements, but in this case, rather than sending it via email, we've posted it to Microsoft Teams. We're just trying out different ways to use Cowork here. But in our Microsoft Teams, we have a channel for newsworthy events. So if somebody comes across something in the IT or cybersecurity space that they think the rest of the team should know about it, they can post it in our news channel in Teams. Well, the latest Copilot news is posting directly into that team for us. We don't have to go out and gather it. It's doing it automatically. So those are a couple of easy tasks that we're taking advantage of. And just to give you an idea, this email that you're looking at on your screen here cost me about $1. So it was a little over $1 for it to put that together. Over the course of a month, maybe $4 or $5. Is that worth it to me? Yeah. But you're going to have to evaluate each of the tasks you're doing to see whether it's worth it for you. More complex tasks may take more money. So, for example, a more complicated thing that we're working on here at Colden is automating our sales and procurement process. So right now, we've got a couple of different systems, one where we track things that we've ordered, another one to track proposals. We're looking at automating some of that and tying it all together into one system. Now, that's going to use a lot more tokens than generating an email. The problem is you don't know what the costs are going to be until you use it, which is not ideal, right? So when you're creating this, you have no idea how much that's going to cost. So what you have to do is actually try it and then go look on the back end in the Microsoft admin side of things and see, well, what did that really cost me? So some warning there. Now, you may have seen on the news not too long ago, there was a story from Axios about a large company in the United States that turned on, it was actually Cloud Cowork for all of their employees, but failed to set any spending limits. And according to this article anyway, they got a bill for $500 million in token utilization because they let their employees go crazy with Cowork. So my advice is don't blow $500 million on Cowork. Set up your spending plans and your controls ahead of time before you allow folks to go in working on Cowork. It's not, you have to set up the billing plan, but that's not enough. You want to set up the cost controls in advance so that you can control that spending. Okay, so we're going to look at the spending piece of it here from two sides. One from the user side, which is this slide here. Note that Copilot likes to work with Office formatted documents. It likes Excel. It likes Word. Doesn't like PDF as much. It's going to cost you more to scour a PDF than it is a Word document. So I'll give you an example. If you have your company handbook and it's in PDF or Word, you're going to want Copilot to be looking at the Word one because that's not going to cost you as much. It's going to scour that. It's going to do a better job scouring it, number one, and it's going to cost you less. Number two, note that you have the choice of choosing models. So if you know that Claude Sonnet is a less expensive model than Fable, as an example, choose that one. Especially if you're doing basic tasks, you don't need the latest and greatest engines. And request only the output you need. A lot of times, Copilot will throw in summaries and extra things, fluff. Tell it to only give you the information you're requesting, and that's going to pare down your cost. The last bullet point here, review your usage regularly. Now, this is something that end users don't have good insights into. So that's going to transition us into the back end here. You want to create a spending policy. So our advice here is before you go opening up Cowork to your entire organization, pick a few power users and restrict things to them to get started. You can create groups and apply spending policies to those groups. So you can decide, all right, these people can use these dollars, nobody else can. And then you can cap that. How much money am I willing to spend each month on these automated tasks? Start small. And then you can set up alerts so you know when you're hitting those thresholds or getting near them. And then review that consumption. So you can go in there and see, all right, and that's how I found out, all right, this automated email is costing me about $1. Get that understanding of how it's working and how much you're spending on these different tasks before you go opening it up. All right, some key takeaways here as we wrap up. There's more model choices. ChatGPT 5.5, 5.6, an extra Claude, not just Opus anymore. Some great improvements in some of the personal assistants. Excel, especially with the dashboard creation, really like that. One other improvement that I didn't mention is the Microsoft Word Copilot can update table of contents. I don't know about you, but the table of contents feature in Word is the bane of my existence. I always struggle getting that to work right. Give it to Copilot now. It knows how to handle it. But really the big takeaway here, the biggest improvement is the addition of Cowork. An agentic AI that can be task-oriented and actually get some things done. But of course, before you go about implementing that, control the spend. Obviously, we can help you with that. That's what we do here at Colden Company. We help businesses take advantage of automation, but also doing it in a secure and fiscally responsible manner. All right. And that wraps it up here. I got my contact information on the screen here. If anybody has any questions, you can put them in the Q&A right now if you'd like, or you can reach out to me afterwards via phone or via email, and we're always happy to talk Copilot and Copilot automation. Let me look in Q&A, see if we have any questions. All right, so this one, can we restrict Cowork to only certain users? The answer is yes. So at this point in time, the way you have to do it is create groups and then apply the budgets to the group. So you can't do it by individual at this point. What you'd have to do is put an individual in a group and then apply controls to that particular group. But they're working on that as an enhancement. But the short answer is yes, you can restrict it, but it's restricted by groups at the moment. Okay, those are all the questions I see. Oh, wait, one more here. Can Copilot generate images? Yes, it can. I use that frequently. So you just tell it what you want it to do. Where it had not been so good in the past is using proprietary logos and things like that. It didn't do a great job at that. But Copilot can generate images for you if you want to use them in presentations. It does a pretty good job at that. All right, and with that, we're right at 11:30 here, which was our goal here. I just want to thank everybody for taking time out of their day to join us here. Hope you got some valuable information out of it, and please feel free to reach out to us if we can be of further assistance for you. Thanks everybody for joining, and have a great day.